Atlantis. You've heard the name, right? It just screams adventure and mystery, a powerful empire swallowed by the sea. But what if the key to finding it isn't buried at the bottom of the ocean? What if it's been hiding in a simple mistake made thousands of years ago? Today, we're going to solve Atlantis.
For literally centuries, we've been picturing this massive sunken continent, searching for underwater ruins. But what if we've been looking in all the wrong places? What if the answer is hiding right in front of us, buried not under waves, but inside the story itself?
All right, so where do you even start with a mystery this huge? Well, you have to go back to the source, the only source actually. Two dialogues written by the Greek philosopher Plato, way back around 360 BC. Everything, and I mean everything, we think we know about Atlantis comes directly from him.
Now, Plato gives us this really specific checklist. It's like a blueprint. He says Atlantis was beyond the Pillars of Hercules, which we know is the Strait of Gibraltar. He describes this incredible city made of concentric rings of land and water. But here's the real kicker, the biggest hurdle for pretty much any theory. He claims it was destroyed 9,000 years before his time. That puts its destruction around 9600 BC, deep in the Stone Age. We're talking hunter-gatherers, not some advanced naval empire.
Okay, so let's take Plato at his word for a second. The search begins in the Atlantic Ocean, and bam, we immediately hit a wall, a massive geological wall. The physics here are pretty basic. Continental crust is light, it's buoyant, it floats on top of the denser oceanic crust. An entire continent can't just sink. It's geologically impossible.
And you can see how quickly modern science just tears apart the most popular Atlantic theories. The Azores, that whole area is actually rising, not sinking. Those ruins people claim to find on undersea mountains, almost every single time they turn out to be completely natural rock formations, like the fractured basalt on the Amper Seamount that totally fooled some explorers back in the 70s.
Now there is one candidate that gets tantalizingly close. It's called Spartel Bank. It was a real island, it was near Gibraltar, and it actually did sink right around 9600 BC. So the time and place are a perfect match, but the archaeology is crystal clear. It was home to Stone Age people, hunter-gatherers, no big cities, no empire. So what we have here is a geological memory of a catastrophic flood, but it's not the city of Atlantis itself.
All right, so the Atlantic is looking like a bust. Let's pivot to a theory that has absolutely blown up on the internet in recent years. This is the Richat Structure in Mauritania, probably better known as the Eye of the Sahara.
And, I mean, you get it, right? You look at this picture from space, and the resemblance to Plato's city of concentric rings is just uncanny. It is a jaw-dropping visual match. It's no wonder this theory completely captured the imagination of so many people online.
But, and this is a huge but, there is one fatal flaw, one tiny number that completely sinks the entire theory. The Richat Structure sits about 400 meters. That's over 1,300 feet above sea level.
Yeah, that one number is the nail in the coffin. This thing is a natural geological dome that was never, ever at sea level. Archaeologists have scoured the place and found nothing but primitive stone tools. It's a classic case of our brains seeing patterns that aren't really there. A cool coincidence, but definitely not Atlantic's. So the Atlantic is a bust, the Sahara is a dead end. It feels like we're stuck, right? Well, this is where the investigation takes a wild turn, and it all hinges on a potential mistake, a typo, really, made when the story was first told to the Greeks by Egyptian priests nearly 2,600 years ago. This is it, the decimal error hypothesis. The idea is shockingly simple. What if, during the translation from Egyptian to Greek, a number was read incorrectly? What if all the numbers in the story, the dates, the measurements, were accidentally multiplied by 10? If that's true, it changes absolutely everything. And you can totally see how it could have happened. The Egyptian symbol for 100 was a coiled rope. The symbol for 1,000 was a lotus flower. Now, to an Egyptian priest, they're completely different. But to a Greek traveler like Solon, who's hearing the story, it's easy to imagine a mix-up. And that one little mistake would change 9,000 years into a much more believable 900 years. And that gives us a brand new time frame to work with. And that one simple change, it completely transforms our search. We're not in the Stone Age anymore. We're not in the Atlantic. This correction moves our timeline to around 1600 BC and shifts our focus right into the Mediterranean, smack dab in the middle of the Bronze Age, when powerful empires really did exist. So who was the big naval power in the Mediterranean around 1600 BC?
Well, this new timeline points a giant, flashing arrow at one civilization in particular, the Minoans. They were a powerful seafaring empire, a true naval power, based on the island of Crete.
And guess what happened right around that time? The heart of the Minoan world got ripped apart. The volcanic island of Thera, which you probably know as Santorini, violently exploded in one of the biggest eruptions in human history. I mean, look at these numbers. This blast was about 25 times more powerful than Vesuvius, the one that buried Pompeii. It was a civilization-ending event.
This is where it gets really good. The cultural connections are just mind-blowing. Let's start with bulls. Plato's Atlantis had this whole religious ceremony centered on bulls. Well, the Minoans were famously obsessed with bulls. Their most famous artworks depict acrobats leaping over them. The parallels are just too strong to ignore.
And remember Plato's weirdly specific detail about the city being built with red, white, and black stone? Well, just look at the cliffs of Thera, modern Santorini. It's the exact same color palette. The volcanic rock there is layered in red, white, and black, and Minoan builders on that island use those exact stones. The coincidences are really starting to pile up.
But maybe, just maybe, the smoking gun comes from the Egyptians themselves, the ones who told the story in the first place. Their temple records talk all about getting tribute from a great naval power they called the Keftiu. We're pretty sure Keftiu was their name for the Minoans, but right after the Thera eruption, crickets. The Keftiu are gone from the history books. They just vanish.
So, what's the verdict? Atlantis isn't one single dot on a map you can go find. It's more like a composite memory, a story that was built up in layers over a very, very long time.
So let's break it down. You have 4 layers. Layer 1, the historical core. A real event, the catastrophic eruption of Thera that crippled the Minoan civilization. Layer 2, the transmission error. As the story is told and retold, a translation mistake pushes the date way back into the past. Layer 3, the geomythological echo. That new, much older date accidentally taps into real ancient folk memories of coastal flooding from the end of the last ice age. And finally, Layer 4, the Platonic wrapper. Plato takes this powerful layered legend and uses it as a cautionary tale for his own city of Athens.
So you see, the search for Atlantis was never really about finding gold or a sunken city. The real treasure here is the realization that so many of our ancient myths might actually be fossilized memories of real events, real catastrophes, and real human survival. The story of Atlantis wasn't truly lost. It was just waiting for us to learn how to read it correctly.